Okay, Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum, Hassan. Are you here?
Salam, bro. Yeah, yes, you're live.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh, everybody, for joining us here on Fast FM. My name is Abdul Hakim. I'm one of the managers for a program called Islam for Deaf, which is a program sponsoring and which provides Islamic education in sign language for the deaf community. Alhamdulillah, it's governed by one community organization, which is a registered charity based in Birmingham with branches all around the UK. Alhamdulillah, I'm grateful here to be here talking to yourselves, just to highlight the importance of what we're doing and how much the deaf community and those with SEN, special educational needs, are shunned from the community in regards to especially Islamic activities, Islamic events, and socializing in general. So we don't wanted to highlight that topic there. If anyone who is familiar with this situation, familiar, they may have deaf siblings or deaf brothers or sisters, or deaf people in their family, and they understand that in regards to the deaf community, um, they always have to compromise, which, alhamdulillah, it is what it is. But we want to try and make it easy for them and also include them, because it's not their fault. It's a decision of Allah. Allah put them in that situation, and Allah decided and Allah decreed for them to be partially deaf, blind, um, to have a handicap then, or a disability. And it's also a test for us as well to see how we deal with it. So those who are joining in, who are familiar with ADHD, for example, autism, special educational needs, deaf, and then join in the conversation and share what you think, inshallah. I see that we have Ren official. Hello. Assalamu alaikum to you, or hello to you as well. One of our programs, you can check us out on or you can check the website out on islamfordeaf.co.uk. We're currently there in Ramadan doing our appeals as well to help bring in funds so we can continue with the programs throughout the year. But to definitely take a look at the website, islamfordeaf.co.uk. For as in FOR, Islam for, there you go, islamfordeaf.co.uk. So yeah, check it out. If there's any questions which you'd like to ask as well, feel free to jump in and ask. We can have a talk, see what events are going on, see what projects we're doing, the experiences that we've had, how the deaf community has responded to us, and how we continue to respond to them in regards to the programs that we're doing, where and who from the deaf community benefit, because we have a global audience. We're providing at the moment iftar for deaf people in Bangladesh, Pakistan, Africa. We're providing iftar for them. Again, you'll be able to see it on a website and support it, inshallah. So feel free, as I said, to join in. Are you still here, Hassan?
Yeah, I'm here, bro. Yeah.
Okay. Yes. So again, you can start this interview with ourselves in regards to if there's any questions that you want to ask for Islam for Deaf, then feel free.
Yeah. So, if you could tell us about your work, then. So, I mean, with regards to deaf Muslims, or even non-Muslim deaf people, how does it work with the interaction? Because it's something in the community that we don't really see much of. Deaf Muslims and even giving dawah to deaf non-Muslims. How does it work? How did you get into it, for example? That would be a good place to start, I think.
Okay. Well, you're right. To be honest with you, as a hearing person, you tend not to really think about the deaf community, because you don't really see something which is apparent other than the hearing aid, to know that that they're deaf. Because a lot of deaf people as well just wear the small, discreet hearing aid, and you have to really pay attention to acknowledge it. But how I more or less got involved is we was doing a event in Asda in Birmingham, and there was a deaf man and he was with his interpreter. I was familiar with with interpreting because some of my family does interpreting, but I wasn't really much involved in it. Anyway, the deaf man, English guy, he wanted to learn more about Islam, and he must have seen the beard and seen what we was doing. And him and his interpreter approached us, and he wanted to know where he can go to learn more about Islam. And his interpreter was telling me what he's saying. So, and she was interpreting what I was saying to him. So, she's actually interrupted and said that the deaf Muslims, there's not much for them in Islam. There's not much for deaf people in Islam. So come to the church, and we'll, we can fulfill any questions or ask any questions that you want. As I said, I was a bit familiar with sign language anyway, because my auntie and some of my family does it because they work with deaf people as well. So I caught onto it, and plus she was saying it as well, what she was signing. And I intervened, I interrupted, and I said, no, give me your details, your email address, and we can get something going on, we can get something started, and I can get some information to you. So we exchanged details, and I tried to find deaf programs, Islamic programs, where they can join in on Islamic classes, where they can join on, and I couldn't find any. The only place, to be honest, I found was there's a place in East London, and that does was East London Masjid, that does Jummahs, but in regards to consistent classes, dawah. Then, if you want to say that, I couldn't find I couldn't find anything. So we started off Islam for Deaf, and we invited deaf people from around the UK to come to Birmingham, and we did an event there in Aston University. And alhamdulillah, we had deaf people from all over the UK that came, enjoyed it, and they wanted more classes. So we turned one of our offices into a classroom and started doing classes one every month. And alhamdulillah, you had people traveling, deaf people traveling 2-3 hours just for the 1 hour class. So we decided that, this is something which is a big, huge gap in the Muslim community. We started Islam for Deaf, we started visiting masjids. We first was doing CDs, which we thought we could sell so we can keep the program running, because obviously it's expenses. And the deaf people started complaining that we, as hearing people, get their dawah for free. Why do they have they have to pay, even though it was only £2-3? But it's right. So we just put everything for free online and started to collect donations to help pay for the dawah, help pay for their services. And it just started off from there, really. One of the things which I like to highlight is what I noticed when I started getting more involved is the lack of resources for deaf people, especially for deaf children. Deaf children, there's hardly anything out there. And they always have to compromise because there's not really no one really speaking up for them, who can represent them then. And we try to be that. It is difficult because you have to have a lot of patience with dealing with deaf people. Anyone that works with them, interpreters, or if you have deaf people in your family, you know that you have to have a lot more you have to have a lot more patience and a lot more compassion. And it's not something that you can get overnight either. It's something that you have to learn, and it's something that you have to practice, and keep on practicing. And inshallah, Allah will bless you with that. But nevertheless, it's something that is consistent. But in regards to Islamic events, there's hardly any. When there are Islamic events on, there's no interpreter. Hardly any. A lot of the times, there's hardly anyone there to represent the deaf people. An interpreter there is to invite the deaf people to come to the events. We started providing that service. So anytime we noticed like a huge Islamic event was on, we contacted them and said, okay, then we will pay, we will provide an interpreter. We want to invite the deaf community to also socialize with the Muslims as well, because it's very important to socialize. When you feel shunned, or when you are shunned from the community, it can be depressing. It can have a mental effect. You can start to feel, you can lose your confidence, and you can, as well as you being shunned, you may start shunning others also, because you feel that they're shunning you, so you're shunning them. So this has a very big impact on the deaf community, and hence, alhamdulillah, we now have a global audience, and we're doing our best to provide Islamic education for children, because they need tarbiyah, they need nurturing, as well as for adults, inshallah. So we do, those who are paying attention, those who are watching, those who like help our deaf Muslim brothers and sisters, definitely support us on Islam for Deaf.co.uk, inshallah. What countries do you help in? We, as I said, it's because we're online, we have a global audience at the moment, where I mean, we have correspondents from deaf people in China, America, Australia, obviously here in the UK, Africa, uh, Bangladesh. There's a large deaf population in Bangladesh, Pakistan, India, and that's where we're doing the iftar programs out for the poor people there. Because even with iftar, someone needs to go and actually get the food and represent for the deaf community, and someone needs to stand up and say, okay, then look, we're collecting for the deaf and we're providing finance them, clothes, food, iftar for the deaf community globally. And alhamdulillah, Allah put us in that position where we can do that. So it's all online in regards to the iftar, what we're helping, and in the dawah is for everybody. For Ramadan, I'll quickly highlight that we're doing, it's called the hour of power. Every Ramadan, including this Ramadan, we're doing an hour special where there's Quran for half an hour, and there's a lecture by one of the Mashaykh, one of the big scholars, for half an hour as well. Every day of Ramadan, alhamdulillah. And we have an Arabic interpreter, and we have a BSL, British Sign Language interpreter, so deaf people all over the world can understand and benefit, because it's a special time in Ramadan, and we definitely wanted to make the deaf people feel included and make the deaf people have their iman raised and feel like they're part of the community, because there's loads of things going on for us hearing, but for the deaf, I don't know of any other event or any other program, then, if you want to say that, that is happening in Ramadan every day. I don't know any other than Islam for Deaf. So this is something which we really, as a hearing brother to you guys, I'm saying that we have to support Islam for Deaf. If you know of any other organization that's providing Islamic education, Quran, every day of Ramadan, please let me know so I can put it out there as well. But to my knowledge, it's only Islam for Deaf. So really, guys, we need to support it. You really do need to support it. Go to the website and give a sadaqah, jariyah, zakah, whatever you can do. Support the cause, because we're doing it, even though we haven't really had much of a response in regards to donations. We're doing it because we want the deaf people to be, they are part of the ummah. They are, and they need to be welcomed as well by us. Allah's blessed us with hearing. We cannot imagine, I cannot imagine, and I know that many of you, if not all of you, cannot imagine not listening to the Quran. I can't comprehend how it must feel not to hear it, knowing that we have our favorite reciters, we have our favorite lecturers, speakers, the melody of the Quran, how it soothes you when you're driving in your car, you listen to it. When you're at home, you listen to it, you recite it. When you go to the masjid, you listen to it. We cannot imagine not hearing or knowing how beautiful the Quran is and how it sounds with different ways of reciting it even. And for deaf people, the least we can do, the very, very least we can do, is have it interpreted into sign language so they can understand as well. They can stand in prayer, they can sit down, relax, and watch and benefit from Allah's speech. So as I said, we're doing the Quran every day of Ramadan, alhamdulillah, and half an hour Quran, half an hour lecture. Go to the website, get behind it, support it. It may be one day your child, your brother, your sister, your father, mainly even you may need it. Allah knows best. I know of people that was hearing and they've had an accident and they've lost their hearing, their eardrum burst and they lost their hearing. Now they have to learn sign language. It's the decree of Allah. It could happen to anyone, but we should have the access available, or we should have the resources then available for our Muslim deaf community, inshallah. So we definitely want you to get behind it, and it's encouraging me every day to keep on it, because, as I said, for us to be even Muslim is a ni'mah, is a blessing from Allah, and for us to have understanding is even more of a blessing, because Allah guides who He wills to the deen, but He gives understanding to those who He loves. So if we can understand and try our best to understand the religion, and if Allah gives us that, then hope, then that is a sign of Allah loving to us. So we want to try and make other people understand as well, regardless of their disability. We still want them to understand and learn the Quran, because you want for your brother or your sister what you want for yourself, inshallah. So again, this is one of the things which drive me to keep on the dawah and keep on the programs for the deaf community. And I find it a blessing for me, and it can be a blessing for you also, that Allah has put you in a position where you can help others to understand the deen, understand the religion. And and the thing about it, with the deaf and special needs community, there's a need for it. It's not like we're just jumping on a bandwagon and there's to get involved. There's actually a need for it. They actually want the dawah. They actually want to learn. They want to be involved. So they need us hearing to work with the deaf to achieve that, inshallah. And inshallah, the reward and the forgiveness and the blessing and the acceptance is with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's who the foundation, that's who initially we seek help from, and we seek forgiveness from, and we seek acceptance from, first and foremost from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Does that answer your question, Hassan?
Yeah, bro. No, that was really good, Jazakallah khair. So, bro, the other thing I wanted to ask you about, just going back to what you were talking about, the daily show. What time is your daily show with the sheikhs and the sign language on?
It's from 9 till 10 every day, PM, 9 p.m. till 10 p.m. every day. You can go to our YouTube channel, Islam for Deaf YouTube channel, or even Facebook, Islam for Deaf Facebook, or even visit the website, because we live stream it. Excuse me. We live stream it live on the website as well. So all these channels, YouTube, Facebook, and islamfordeaf.co.uk, we live stream the programs on there, inshallah, every day from 9 till 10. Quran, we have imams that have jumped on it and said, yes, alhamdulillah, mashallah, it's very good what you do, and I want to be a part of it. They're reciting the Quran, and we have interpreters interpreting it. And then that's for the first half an hour, and then for the second half an hour we have some of them are sheikh from Medina University, some of the teachers from Medina University, from Mecca, from all for the most part around the world, who's happy to be involved. And when I say scholars, I mean I don't mean like students of knowledge. I mean like scholars like Sheikh Suhaimi, Sheikh Muhammad Maliki. These are well known as
they're teachers, right?
That's the teachers in the Medina University.
Yeah.
As well.
Yeah.
For example, yesterday we had remember his name. We had Abdul Salam As-Suhaimi.
Okay.
And prior to that, we had who is it? We had Dr. Azira Fahan Al-Enzi. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right.
Onazi.
Yeah. He does a lot of. He's got his own channel, and sometimes you'll see an interpreter there with him as well on his channel. But this is the caliber of scholars we want, because we want to introduce the deaf community to the scholars. So if there's any questions, or if there's any queries, or if they're having trouble, which we all do. We all need to go to an imam. We have the opportunity to go to the masjid, and some of us have the opportunity to have links with the scholars, but the deaf community don't have that. So we want to introduce the scholars to them, and them to the scholars, and have someone who can interpret the situation. Any questions or situations that they have, and the scholars are happy to do this.
Yeah, I mean, I've been following the shows this month, especially. It came up on my Facebook, and it's set up from what I remember. It's set up like this. So on this side where I am, for example, you've got the interpreter. On the other side, you've got where you are is the scholar, basically, and they get straight from the source, mashallah.
Straight from the source.
Yeah, no, it's brilliant. Honestly, Jazakallah khair. Really, I think it's a brilliant service that you're providing for the deaf community. The other thing I wanted to ask you, bro. So, do you know sign language yourself by any chance?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Did you have to learn it?
Yeah, I had to learn it. I was kind of familiar with it before, but I wasn't really into it. I mean, I know how to say give salam, say hello, and say my name.
How'd you give salam? Is like this? Like that's salam, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay,
Salam.
Okay.
And just to say my name and things like that. But then when I got more involved with the deaf community, I had to. You have to. You won't be able to get involved in this work if you're not, because it's all about communication.
Well, it's a whole other language, literally, right?
It is a whole other language, and you have to learn it. You have to learn it. Not only do you have to learn it, but you have to understand the culture of the deaf community, because that's another thing as well.
What do you mean? How is that culture different to like a non-deaf person?
It's knowing how to communicate, how to read signs, how to have patience. I cannot emphasize that enough. I mean, if you're not used to dealing with deaf community, for example, if they want your attention, they'll just like, and sometimes you might react the wrong way because you're not used to someone
tugging on you, basically.
Tugging on you, and you don't want to, because they read you. They obviously they cannot, for the most part, cannot hear, so they will read your face expressions as well. So you have to be mindful of not, when they do that, not to. You might be calm inside, but your face will show that.
Right.
It's just little things like this which we tend to probably take for granted then, or tend not to really think about. But
like the body language side of everything.
Body language. Knowing what jokes to say, because it can be misinterpreted. Things which you may find petty, they might find very offensive and serious. Because what you have to understand is that they don't really socialize with us. Don't really socialize with the hearing,
right?
Unless they have like hearing members of the family. But even then, there's members of the family that haven't even learned sign language, because I know that there are brothers and sisters, even parents, that haven't learned sign language and their daughter or son is deaf.
Yeah.
And sometimes there's even a language barrier. Say, for example, the parents are from back home.
Yeah.
And the child is here. The child is in British Sign Language, but the parents, sometimes they're very relaxed in learning English. So two barriers. There's one, the English speaker, and then there's a sign.
Yeah.
So the deaf person then, because he feels like he's shunned, he starts to shun. So he starts dealing with the deaf community and shun himself from the hearing community. So there's a barrier. So as someone coming into this field, then you have to know how to not so much break down the barrier, but to understand that and try to be on both sides of the fence, then, so to speak.
Yeah, because you know what, SubhanAllah, like you said, bro, it's like you can one day you can be perfectly hearing and everything, and your eardrums can burst, and Qadar Allah, you go deaf, right? Or you can have a child who's born deaf. So I mean, how long does it take for a person to learn sign language, for example?
I mean, it depends on how much they're into it, really. It's just like learning another language. Say, for example, you're learning Arabic. You can pick up one or two things, like Salam Alaikum. When you go to a talk, you can, or a lecture, then you can pick up on sometimes even how can I say, even the translator. Because as a new Muslim, I've been to talks, and there's a Arabic imam there or scholar there, and there's an English translator there. So the English translator is translating the Arabic, but the translator is also speaking Arabic. You'll say, so for example, we went to the souk, and inshallah we wanted to buy some merchandise, but in the souk it was too much fitna, so we decided. So he's dropping certain Arabic, and because I'm new, I've lost the whole conversation now.
Yeah, just from one, two words, you just, you know.
One and two words where
Yeah.
you have to take that sort of approach into sign language as well.
Okay.
As well, you have to translate, like I said, everything. And when we've had situations where the Arabic, the sign language interpreter is copying or interpreting the English translator, and the English translator is translating from the Arabic.
Right. So you're
But the
getting it
English
like third hand.
yeah. So the English translator is also dropping in Arabic words. So the BSL the sign language interpreters lost the whole.
Oh man. Yeah,
Yeah.
subhanallah.
And it's
Yeah,
something
yeah.
which is easy as we speak English. Sometimes,
Bro,
you know,
I'm English
we drop
teacher.
them little.
By trade, I'm English teacher, so it's like teaching someone a language, it's hard enough. Do you know what I mean? But then to teach them the sign language, I'm just trying to work out, like, because, like, for example, learning English can take anything from 6 months to 2 years full time, right? It all depends on the learner, how much they put into it, and
Same
how.
thing
And
with sign
it's not
language.
for everyone either. And like learning Arabic, you know, it's really hard as well. So just learning a new language hard enough. So I mean, I'm trying to work out for sign language. Like, can it take 6 months? Can it take 2 years? Was it?
It depends, like you said, it depends on the person who's studying it, really. I mean, you can say, for example, it's just like learning another language. If you start practicing it, you'll lose it. Like, for example, Arabic. Every Muslim should be familiar with Arabic. If you're starting to learn Arabic, you know, depends how much into it you can be every day. You could pick up Arabic and learn it within 2 months if you're like every day into it, learning how to read, really fully on it. Some may never. Some it may take a year. It just depends on that individual. And what I will say as well as that, it's how much, like I said, how much you're into it, who you're learning from as well. That's very important.
Teacher,
Yeah, you need to the teacher. You need to make sure that who you're learning from is competent. Just because you speak Arabic doesn't mean you can be an Arabic teacher, or doesn't mean you can teach Arabic.
Definitely.
You know what I mean? Just because you speak Arabic doesn't mean you can teach Arabic. So, and we learned that in madrasas, you know. But as I said, it's with the deaf community, it just depends. And really, it's something which, if you can't get involved in it, support those who can do it and who are doing it.
Yeah.
Because it's something which, as all Muslims, we need to make sure that this area is covered, and we need to make sure that the help and support and the service is there for our brothers and sisters. One of the things which I'll share this experience with you briefly. Is that me personally, when I started to get involved with working with the deaf community, and I started to get involved in helping Muslim families, then one of the things which I wasn't sort of prepared for then is the cultural aspect of it. For example, I went to visit a deaf brother, and his parents called me in because they was complaining that he was getting violent, that he was hitting his mother. And we went, me and another interpreter went there, and we sat down with him and we started, talking with him and whatnot. And we're saying that you shouldn't hit your mother, especially your mother. It's wrong. Islamically, it's wrong as well. You shouldn't do that. And the other interpreter, he was going on a bit strong, like, it's really wrong. Islamically, Allah will punish you, this, that, and the other. And what happened was the deaf brother said that it's the only way he can get the attention of his mother, because she pays more attention to the other kids and don't pay no attention to me. The only way I can get her attention is when I hit her, and I get the attention of everybody, because then they want to know what I want to say. So, he knows that it's wrong, but it's the only way he can get his attention, because his other brothers and sisters are hearing, they can go about and do what they want. He needs that extra attention to get to be heard, really. And we sat down with her, and the mother doesn't know sign language.
Right.
She didn't bother learning it. Right. She just knows little signs like get up, do this, do that, and that's it. Not like a full conversation. And we sat down with the mother and said, listen, this is not going to get better until you make an effort to communicate, because he's making an effort to communicate with you. It's the wrong sort of effort. Don't get me wrong, because he gets carried away with it, but he's making an effort because he wants your attention.
Yeah.
And you know, the best way to go about this is to counsel him, because you need help and he needs help, and you need a counselor. You need someone, a professional. I'm not saying that, you know, because they're saying, oh, we can go to the imam. Okay, all good and well, but you need someone who's trained in this field with regards to dealing with special needs, special educational needs, a counsel. You know, maybe there's imam who's qualified counselor or competent counselor, Allahu Alam, but first seek help. And not only that, the problem what happened is that she wanted to obviously use me as a mediator and someone to build that bridge to the counsellor, then, which we're happy with doing. But she said that she don't want the community knowing about it. Now this is where the culture comes into it.
Yeah.
Because she didn't want the community thinking that there's a problem in the house and that they've got issues.
Yeah.
So therefore, what she was doing is shunning him from the community.
Oh man.
Yeah. And he's obviously knowing what's going on, but he can't express himself. So he's expressing himself through that way. But my problem is that she said that she don't want the community knowing, and she don't want the social services and this to get involved.
Okay.
But in my position, I have to let someone know, of authority know, whether it's the police, that there's an issue, that there's violence, that there's a domestic issue. Otherwise, not only will I get shut down, but the organization will get marked. And if anything was to happen, if he did lose it and strike his mother, then why didn't I first go and report it to the police?
Yeah.
This is where I can get legally probably charged even,
right,
for putting myself in that situation as a professional organization. So I'm in between a rock and a hard place here now, because if I do and then report it to the authorities and they see or get child services involved because of, you know, someone's getting attacked, she will then tell the community, don't deal with this community organization here, this, because look what they've done to us.
That's right. Yeah.
So you see, there's a bit of like a double-edged sword then. But
definitely, bro.
So what we've done, we actually went to a council ourselves. Okay. Listen, what should we do in this situation? And then he got some people involved, and you know, we're still there, but now they're involved, which is the right thing to do. But not a lot of, you know yourself, when it comes to cultural, not a lot of Muslims want to go down that road in seeking legal advice. You know, they'll seek someone who is learned, but then that learned person would say, you know, oh, Allah made him deaf. He doesn't need to pray. I've heard that from imams. I've heard that myself from someone who's in charge of masjids.
Wow.
So this, I'll provide an interpreter, you know, so the deaf people can benefit. He actually, wallahi, said to me, the deaf people don't need it. They just come, copy everybody else and go. And he's in charge of a masjid. The masjid is the heart of the community.
That's right.
Regardless of your disability, it's the heart of the community. And this is the attitude of one of them, not all.
Yeah.
One of them that I approached in regards to dealing with special needs. And this is, imagine a deaf person learning that. I didn't tell anybody. I'm telling you now. But I did have to go back to the deaf people and say, listen, sorry, the masjid said that you don't need it. It's not for you. Because I can't, you know, that's, you know, this is, it's I don't know, it's just, like, you know, what can you do? What can you say?
Yeah.
It's
just on that point, bro, getting onto the salah, so like the basics of Islam, salah, wudu, and things like that. How does a deaf person, you know, go through that process of learning? Is it through somebody who speaks sign language, and imam or a Muslim teacher and things like that?
Mm-hmm.
How does it work?
In regards to like learning and whatnot, we've done classes where you can learn how to make wudu and to pray, but these will be obviously for like new Muslims, deaf people that want to get involved. We have started that. I mean, for the most part, they'll copy everybody else.
Okay.
If they're from a Muslim family, they'll copy, and a lot of deaf people can read as well. It's just that they would prefer to use their some will say mother tongue. The original, like how our first option is talking, their first option would be signing. Our second option will be reading. Their second option will be reading. But then when we're reading, we can go to someone or call someone and say, okay, then what does this mean? What do you mean by da 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 da? They don't have that, or it's that option for them is less. They don't have. It's harder then. It's more difficult to reach. So again, we try to fill that gap in regards to Islamic education, and hence we do our classes every day of Ramadan, and our classes every Sunday outside Ramadan for the whole year. Every Sunday from 7 to 8 o'clock, we do live sessions where the deaf have access to the scholars. And mashallah, I mean, some of the questions we take it for granted and we think that every Muslim would know. But obviously, the dawah needs to be put out there, regardless how simple you might find it to how difficult you may find it. The dawah needs to be put out there. I mean, I would something as a hearing person, we really very much so take it for granted, and we expect every Muslim to know. And before we go, as I said, this brief experience, which I want everyone who's paying attention to try and understand. We was doing Taraweh in London Central Mosque, Regent's Park Road, for the past. Not we missed last year because of the COVID-19, but prior to that, we was doing it for the past 3 to 4 years. Every year, Taraweh, where the Imam was reciting. We had our translator translating what the Imam is saying into English into a microphone. We had the interpreter on a stage interpreting, and in front of him is the deaf people. So I'm there with the translator by the side, and when every time what was happening was when everyone went into sujood, I keep hearing like a banging sound. So I'm thinking that sometimes, in the masjid you get kids running around messing about. So I'm walking around looking for these kids to find out where this banging sound is coming from. And then okay, they got back up. Okay, I went to sit down. Sujood again, banging sound. So again, I'm running around trying to find these kids to get them to behave themselves. So what I found out was after about the fourth time, is that when everybody went into sujood with the head on the floor, the deaf people couldn't hear Allahu Akbar when to get up. So what was happening was the interpreter was banging his feet on the floor so they can feel the vibrations on their head, and that's when they got up to pray. So, as I said, it's a simple thing. I'm even though I'm around the deaf, I've been around the deaf for a while. I've been doing these programs. I'm still thinking because I'm using my ears, and I'm looking for these kids. I'm not, fully in that deaf sort of zone then. You know what I mean? Because and something as simple as that, where they can feel the vibrations, just to get up from Salah is something which, again, once I realized that, I just said, you know what, we're blessed and we don't even realize how grateful and how blessed we are just to have hearing, where it's still, that's, we can hear Allahu Akbar and get up from sujood. When they're there, everyone's getting up. He had to bang his feet for them to get up, to feel the vibrations on their head. And again, these little things helped me to be more determined with the programs that we're doing for Islam for Deaf. And those who, as I said, who are paying attention, you need to really get behind it, because it's a ni'mah, it's a blessing that you're doing, and you're supporting your deaf brothers and sisters, you know what I mean, and they want that support, inshallah. So definitely visit the website and get behind it, inshallah.
Jazakallah khair, bro. Bro, another question for you is, How does a deaf person, is it more difficult for a deaf person to perform Umrah or Hajj?
Um,
Is there
in
special
regards,
group for the deaf?
I mean, there have been special groups for the deaf, and we've been asked to provide interpreters for that. And I know a few interpreters that have gone there and in support and help the deaf community. So it's not, obviously more needs to be done. Don't get me wrong, and inshallah, more will be done, especially for us, inshallah. But it's again, it's having that knowledge of knowing what to do. If you have, regardless if you're deaf, blind, whatever the case, whatever disability you have, if you have the knowledge to know
Yeah.
what to do, you'll be able to get on with it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But if you don't have the knowledge, even if you're hearing, and I'm sure you've probably heard stories of people who are capable, fully able, still making silly mistakes and still doing the wrong thing.
Yeah. I mean, you
In,
can forget. Anything can happen. Yeah. When you're on Umrah.
in Hajj and Umrah. So it's just about having that knowledge and knowing what to do. In regards to help and support,
Yeah.
then there is obviously there's a situation that the deaf person cannot just get up and go. He has to make sure that there's support there, or there's a member of his family who is hearing and who's competent in regards to supporting him. But we have been asked from the deaf community to assist them in their Hajj and in their Umrah, inshallah. But again, that's something which we're going into. I mean, we do want to encourage Muslims as well to learn sign language,
Okay.
because there's only a handful of Muslims, registered interpreters. Sorry, only a handful in the UK. A handful in the UK. There's many interpreters, but
What's the
Muslim
process?
interpreters.
How do you go through that process of learning?
First, there's many organisations that provide classes, BSL classes, and colleges and universities in London, all throughout the UK. There's colleges that you can learn sign language in. But one thing I will say, it's very time consuming, and if you're going to use it or if you're going to have it as a occupation, then obviously it's going to be an occupation. You're going to want to feed your family from it. You're going to need to work, and if you definitely use it as an occupation, but you will be approached by Muslims to do it for free.
Yeah.
And you want to make sure that, for one, your niyyah is correct in the first place, because and deaf Muslims will approach you as well to come to their events and interpret for free. But you're thinking, okay, look, this is an occupation. I've taken it as an occupation, and I've got to feed my family, so there's got to be some form of cost involved. And not only that, but Muslim organizations has to know as well that for an interpreter, this is an occupation. You have to pay for his service.
Yeah.
You can't just say, okay, you're Muslim, so you're doing it for free. You're Muslim, so you're doing it fi he has a family to feed, and a few interpreters and Muslim interpreters have a problem with working with Islamic organizations, because they not only do they want them to stand for 3, 4, 5 hours, but they want it to do it for free
Right.
as well at the same time. And it's
Yeah.
not, they'll pay a non-Muslim to come in, but when it comes to a brother or sister, they want to bargain with them and knock him down, and it's it can be quite disheartening for some of the interpreters. But as I said, it's it is what it is, and we decided to do it this way, where we're providing an interpreter and we're dealing with the costs, because we know what interpreters to use, and we will pay the interpreters from the budget that we've gathered from donations and this, that, and the other.
I see.
One thing I know that time's ticking on. When using an interpreter, you want the interpreter not only to be competent in signing, but just interpret what the imam is saying. Nothing more, nothing less. Unfortunately, there's only a few Muslim interpreters, and out of them few Muslim interpreters, we had interpreters that was interpreting what they thought the imam meant.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah? So the imam would say something like, the prophet is made out of not made, the prophet is Noor, is the light. And the interpreter may have some different methodology. He may be have some different way of understanding the Quran and Sunnah then. So he'll sign the Prophet is light. I mean, is light, is the light. And I've actually caught a few interpreters out, and I said, listen, just interpret what the Imam is saying. If the Imam is wrong, then it's not upon you; it's upon the Imam. So you just interpret. Don't say what you think he means.
Right.
Just interpret exactly what he's saying. But
Okay.
brother, the Imam is wrong. No, no. Just interpret what the Imam is saying.
Right.
If he's wrong, it's him that's wrong, not you.
Okay.
And not only that, but we're paying you to interpret what
Yeah.
the Imam is saying.
Yeah.
So there's been a one or two issues where, well, I'm not going to say that. I was like, okay.
Okay. It's fine.
Okay, fine. If because his methodology is or the sect, all that sect business, Salafi, Hanafi,
Right.
all that gets involved, and you just want to interpret what the Imam is saying.
Yeah.
I want to get involved in the little bits and bobs, because the deaf people, they're not, for the most part, you don't want to get them involved in that for one. You know what I mean? Just keep it clear. Quran, Sunnah,
Simple.
keep
Yeah.
it clear. Don't get involved in this and which, as hearing people, yourself, is sometimes can be an issue.
It's messy enough as it is.
Messy enough. It's
Yeah.
messy enough.
SubhanAllah. Do you know what, bro? On that point with the interpreters, you told me over the phone briefly when we spoke over the past few days, one of the interpreters took a shahada, like a non-Muslim interpreter.
Yeah.
So can you tell us a bit about that? What happened there?
Alhamdulillah, we was doing our programs, which we was doing our monthly programs, and what I noticed was happening was our interpreter, mashallah, may Allah guide him. I noticed that sometimes, I can see in his face, he's welling up, he's getting all emotional, and I was like, okay, obviously the dawah's getting him, and for example, he'll stop the talk, and he'll make an excuse like he has to go to the bathroom and that, and then he'll come back and he'll carry on. So I know that it's getting into him. I was like, okay, may Allah guide him, because Allah knows the hearts. And alhamdulillah, he ended up taking his shahada, he ended up embracing Islam. This is someone, mind you, he was Christian then, and when we was interviewing for interpreters, I would say 98% of the interpreters was happy until we said it's going to be Islamic lectures. Then I said, sorry, we don't want nothing to do with it. Sorry, we don't. Oh, sorry, I'm Christian. Oh, sorry, I'm Catholic. This, da, 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 da. I'm sorry, we don't. He was one of the few that said, okay, you know what? As long as obviously, it's not controversial, then fine. It's a job for me. I'm getting paid for it. And that's all it is. It's only a job. Are happy to interpret Islamic talks. And alhamdulillah, a few months down the line, he ended up taking his shahada. And the benefit of him, because he was quite a high interpreter, he used to go to the courts and interpret for the barristers and for the law courts, for the magistrates and this, that, and the other. So he's quite a high level of interpreting. He ended up, alhamdulillah, Allah guiding him, and he ended up taking his shahada. The benefit that he brought to the Muslims, deaf people, after that, because once you have that passion, when you embrace, you want to learn everything. You want to read, you want to learn more Quran, you're more kind of strong. It hits you differently. And his learning, so even the Khutbah Haja, when he's doing the Jummah, when the Imam does his first part, which is in Arabic, he's interpreting that because he's learned it, and he's interpreting that. And there's many Muslims that's been in the deen for years, probably grew up as Muslims, don't even know that bit. When the Imam's introducing the Khutbah Haji, when he's giving an introduction before he starts the Jummah, many Muslims don't know that hearing, and because of his passion, he learned it. And as the Imams do introducing or getting ready to come on and reciting that, he's actually interpreting that as well. And as I said, he was like contacting me. What does this mean? What does that mean? We traveled together. We went to Saudi Arabia, Dubai, together as well, to try and get some help in regards to the programs that we was doing. And he done many khutbahs as well. And mashallah, he definitely benefited more the deaf community. And this is the dawah that we're talking about. It benefits the deaf, which is our intention primarily, but also the interpreters, because they have to interpret what they're hearing to the deaf, and they're coming closer. There's one who's working with us now. I think he has a lot more Islamic knowledge than some of the Muslims, and he's not even Muslim, just because he has to understand and interpret to the deaf, and he's worked with many imams as well, and inshallah is starting to read the Quran. So may Allah guide him. This is another interpreter.
Ameen.
So may Allah guide him. But this is the dawah. The dawah is something which you have. It's one of the things which is even zakat applicable, because it's so important. The dawah is so important.
Yeah. SubhanAllah, bro. That story is amazing, man. Because look at that, as in, like, none of us as Muslims, you're saying there's not many, registered, a sign language, in terms of what is it, BSAs?
BSL, which is sign language.
British Sign Language interpreters. So look at this. I mean, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he's made this guy a Muslim who was one of the best in the field, and now he's helping the deaf. I mean, SubhanAllah, bro. You know what I mean? It's like you can't make that stuff up. It's just like proper blessing, man. Allahu Akbar, man.
This is the dawah, brother. This is the dawah.
Yeah, man. Jazakallah khair, bro. Amazing work, man.
Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah.
Yeah, so last few minutes, bro. I'll leave it with you. Last few words before we end the show, inshallah.
Okay, well, Jazakallah khairan for having us on. It's very important that deaf awareness and special needs, special educational needs awareness programs happens. It's something which is out of sight, out of mind. If we're not made aware of it, then we don't know about it. And for the deaf, for the hearing community, it's important that once you do acknowledge that there's a situation and that there are people, there are our brothers and sisters that want to learn Islam, there's a gap which needs to be filled, and the responsibility is all of ours. Allah has tested them with deafness, with special education needs, but the test is not just for them. The test is also for us to see what we would do. Would we support them? Would we leave them? We'd be like, okay, you know what? They're deaf, I'm hearing, I'm okay. I can go to the masjid, I can listen to the Quran, I'm fine. It's a test, to see what you would do also. So the test is for both of us, the hearing and the deaf and those with special educational needs. So this is something which, as I said, awareness is definitely needed. We ask you, the hearing community, my brothers and sisters, us, the Ummah, to support those with special educational needs. It's something which is growing. It's something which is becoming more aware because of technology and whatnot. You see on TV now signing during the daytime programs rather than it being left to the middle of the night, and that's the only time you see it. No, you're starting to see more of it now. You're starting to see, as I said, organizations like ourselves, Islam for Deaf.co.uk, actually putting the dawah out for the deaf community. So get behind it, inshallah, support it, and inshallah we will be doing more awareness programs and talking about more experiences. And inshallah we'll have on one of the times we'll have one of my deaf brothers and sisters joining us so they can express or talk about as well their experience growing up as being deaf in the Islamic community, inshallah.
That'd be amazing, bro. So inshallah next week, if you can bring someone with you, inshallah, and we can give more insight into our audience, into the world of deaf and deaf Muslims, inshallah. Okay, bro.
Jazakallah khair for allowing us to come on, inshallah.
And thank you everyone for watching, and stay tuned for Dawah Hour next, and we'll see you next week with Brother Abdul Hakim. Okay, Assalamu alaikum.
Welcome, Salam.
And then that's the one, yeah. So